I will circle back to what you said in terms of the production. I thought the production was excellent. If what essentially it was a documentary of why is wrestling fantastic and what's happened in the last 40 years, well, it nailed it and it did that in 6 hours, which is a feat. But what was quite interesting about some of the editing was obviously the narrative that they were weaving in very fast fashion to bring everyone on this chronological journey. And one soundbite that really jumped out at me, which pertains to you, was it's kind of talking about the dying days of WCW the last year or so, and it jumped to a clip from Booker T, and he said that you dropped the ball, and obviously that's not the first time I've heard something similar. But that statement doesn't really take into account the kind of macro context of what was going on with Turner as an organization during the AOL Time Warner buyout. Does it kind of frustrate you 25 years on that there's still this element of blame in some camps towards you and the death of WCW, or is it a bit like water for ducks back at this point that you've heard it all before?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. It used to bother me much more than it does now. I've gotten fairly used to it. It's been going on for a long time. But I also recognize, and look, Booker T's a friend of mine. If I ran into him, in a city anywhere, I'd look forward to sitting down and having a beer and eating a steak. We have a good relationship. And listen, Hulk Hogan is one of my best friends. I've heard Hulk Hogan say similar things. And I recognize that from their perspective, they only know what they know. They had no visibility into what was going on in Turner Broadcasting. They had no visibility into the business of the wrestling business at that time. They only knew what they experienced, and what they experienced was as a performer. Now, they were affected by some of the things that were going on, and some of them negatively affected, for sure. Even just the chaos and the lack of continuity and the lack of quality storytelling, and the crazy creative that was taking place, because quite frankly, the wheels were falling off the creative efforts as a result of a lot of other things. But they don't know the other things. They only know their world. So I recognize that. And because I recognize it, I don't take it personally, because I don't think their intention is, I think their intentions are fine. They're explaining what they saw and what they think based on what they know. Unfortunately, what they know or what they knew was so severely limited. It would be the same as, I'm a private pilot, or I was. I haven't flown in a long while. But at one time, I was a instrument-rated pilot. I had my own plane. I was certified to fly high-performance complex aircraft. Instrument-rated, if I didn't mention that. I was at a fairly high level with close to 1,000 hours of airtime under my belt as a pilot. That doesn't mean that I can analyze or pass judgment on the operations of a major airline, because I only know what I know, and that's how to fly a plane, but I don't know how to run an airline. And it's the same thing, I think, with wrestlers in this context. Is sure, they were in the ring. They know a lot about how to perform. They know a lot about how to manipulate the audience and create the emotion that a movie creates, or that a book creates, or even a television commercial can create, right? All of them are designed to create a reaction. And when it comes to the art of creating reactions in the ring, guys like Booker T are some of the best in the world at it. But that doesn't mean they know what's going on in the business of business, because that's not their world. Just like running an airline isn't my world, even though I'm a pilot. I'm totally unqualified to talk about the operational successes or failures of major airlines just because I'm a pilot. So I take it. I wish they wouldn't say those things. And it doesn't, look, at this point in my life, nothing they say is going to change my life one way or the other, for better or for worse. It just is what it is. So I don't get emotional about any of it, but I do kind of deep down inside wish that people would kind of hit that critical thinking part of their brain and go, wait a minute, is there more to this than I understand? What don't I know? knowing what you don't know is, for me at least, key to life. If you think you know everything and you're willing to come out and stand up tall and profess your absolute commitment to an idea without having asked yourself, what don't I know yet? And spending a little bit of time with, like I said, your critical thinking hat on, yeah, you more often than not, you kind of make yourself look a little,
Yeah, I agree.
less than astute.
Yeah, and also it's with what I mentioned with Booker T and all that kind of thing. It's the art of the edit again, isn't it? You don't know how many things he was asked leading up to that, and then obviously as soon as you juxtapose it with silly footage of some of the dafter things that were happening in WCW, it all becomes a wonderful
Sure.
narrative. Of
And
course,
that may have happened.
and of course,
That may have
you cast aside many of the silly things that were happening in the WWF in the year 2000, because it fits the narrative.